Well, hey, everybody, what's up? Thanks for tuning into this special episode of the White Knuckle Podcast powered by Ozonics. We had an awesome opportunity here today to connect with Matt Drury from Drury Outdoors, and I had a chance to sit down and talk with him via Skype. And we were able to find out what they had going on for this year and talk a little bit about when their new shows are starting, which happens to be July the 3rd, which is today. So if any of you are interested, tune in tonight to the Outdoor Channel. They're gonna have a solid hour full of their new content. And then he talks about some pretty cool things that are to come in the future. So we were excited to have the opportunity to talk with Matt, and we're excited to have the opportunity to work with the Drurys in the future, and certainly look forward to it. So I want to say a special thanks to them for taking the time on such short notice to do this show, and we hope you enjoy the information that we share with you here today as much as we enjoyed being able to put it on. So with that, here is my interview, and my first ever video interview with Mr. Matt Drury. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the White Knuckle Podcast. Today, I have joined with me Mr. Matt Drury, a guy that probably doesn't need a ton of introduction. He is the general manager for Drury Outdoors. Matt, how's it going today?
Good, man. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Big day for you guys.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. We've been working on a brand new show alongside Moss Yoke, which has been a lifelong partner of ours for 30 years, called Critical Mass. And it airs on the Outdoor Channel tonight at 9:30 Central, Tuesday nights, 9:30 Central. So it airs right after 13, which it's a brand new season of 13, obviously a brand new show on Critical Mass, and it's kind of like the Drury Power Hour. If you can handle a dose of the Drurys for an hour, you should be rewarded in some way or form.
That's a lot of information to take in, but definitely some worthwhile information. I've always enjoyed watching, and it's been kind of a staple in the outdoor industry, I would say, for since 1989, really.
Yeah. Mark and Dad, Terry Drury, they started in '89 and started with a VHS title called King of the Spring. And I think it took them something like 2 years to get enough content to create that first VHS title. And it's come a long way since then. I can remember back in the day hunting behind our house, a 24-acre property that Mom and Dad have there in Bloomsdale, Missouri, and in a homemade. Right now, it would be considered something similar to what they're hunting out of now with these blinds, but back in the day, it was kind of a tree stand, and hunting back then with Dad. It was just so different. Everything we did was always on camera. I never remember going hunting without a camera being present. I've never gone hunting without a camera. But back then we weren't seeing anything. That was the difference. We'd sit there all day and not see anything. So, Dad, I remember we were close enough in this tree that we could see the house. And so he would see if my mom was up on the weekends making breakfast, and that dictated whether or not we needed to go in. So it was, those were the good old days, to be honest, because it just was, hunting meant something totally different than it does now. And it's become a business, no doubt. We still enjoy it, but it's a business for us.
Yeah, I can see where that certainly would be a factor. And I think overall hunting has changed, some for the good, some not for the so good, but by and large it's changing every day, like the rest of our world. But tell us a little bit about Critical Mass and what brought on the show. Was it your brainchild? Was it or whose was it?
Yeah. So, we felt like, first of all, Dream Season had aired. I think it had been 14 seasons. And we felt like it was time for something new. When we launched Dream Season back in 2004, at the time, it was considered in the hunting industry the first reality, quote unquote reality show, a competition type show, which, back then some people didn't like the fact that you put the word competition in with hunting, and it's not what it's supposed to be about. But I think if you really watch the show and watch it evolve over those 14 seasons, you saw that it really wasn't a competition. It was camaraderie. It was what you experience in hunting camp. And we just felt like it had run its course. But that reality competition style show, we felt like, hey, we could do something new, something better, something in line with what you see on network television, something that we would enjoy watching, with your family, that could help uplift hunters, help bring new hunters into the sport, just be something that's hopefully not been done before, which is hard to do in our industry. So, it was kind of a combination of, of course, everything we do, it's kind of Mark, Terry, and myself putting it together, and then our team here at the studio, have an input, and we run it by people in the industry, people that we trust. And so it had probably been a good year and a half that we had worked on the idea for Critical Mass. And some ideas were Mark's, some ideas were mine, but ultimately that's kind of how we always create all of our shows. It's kind of a hybrid of a little bit of us throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, because we really beat ourselves up to try to think through what someone might not like, what resonate with someone. And so it's just a long combination and process of throwing things at the wall until you finally find a recipe where you're like, you know what, dang, I think this is could be an entertaining show. I think it's something that people could really gravitate towards. So that just gives you kind of the backstory of how we came up with it. As far as the actual show itself, it tries to, and I mentioned it just a second ago, we're trying to take something and make it a little more fun, a little more entertaining, and introduce new people to the sport. So we teamed up with a company called Archery Tag. It's I think their website's like globalarchery.com, and they basically have their company is, for lack of a better term, it's like paintballing with bows and arrows with a big Nerf tip. Looks like a marshmallow on the end of your arrow, and it's a really fun, engaging, entertaining way for you and your friends to get together and just do something different. Well, for so many people, it can also be an introduction into archery, which then could be hopefully an introduction into hunting. And so the tie from the Archery Tag aspect is we wanted something fun. We wanted a skills challenge, a competition course, so to speak, that would be fun and different and have some challenges. And, oh, by the way, you're being shot at while you're trying to complete these challenges. It's just something fun and nothing more, really nothing more. And so we teamed up with Global Archery, and, they had something like 2 million plus followers on Facebook, all organically. They're in like 66 countries. So for us, I think their taglines, it's a hit. It is a hit. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's very, very fun. They're based out of Indiana. John Jackson's the owner. Good dude. So teamed up with them. We knew we wanted to kind of bring a fun archery element into the mix. And so we grab this piece and we set it aside and we figure out how it pertains to the show later. Then we go out and we start trying to find our cast. And, we picked 12 people. Some were already on the Drury team, but half of them were not. We went out and kind of headhunted and looked for new faces, young faces, women. So try to get a diverse look at the hunting landscape and see, okay, it's not just a male-dominated 40 to 50-year-old sport. Let's try to get, a couple young guns, Stephen and Jesse McBee, they're in their early 20s. We got a couple females, Dawn Jensen being one of them, Brooke Denon, and then we do have a few of the old guys still. So we try to run the gamut of what the hunting landscape looks like. All right, so we got our team, our cast. Now we got to really nail down format. And, we had been throwing a lot of things at the wall of what the format could look like, how you weave together this Archery Tag with the hunting and their hunting seasons. And ultimately, we decided on a acronym for the word mass. It's M equals movement, A equals aesthetics, S equals skills, and the final S is stewardship. And we felt like, all right, if these 12 people can be the kind of the judge and jury of their peers' hunts in a very uplifting way, this could be something pretty cool. This could be this acronym for MASS could be how we judge 2 hunts. So contestant A, the challenger, goes up against contestant B, the defender, and we're the jury, the rest of their peers, the other 10 people, they're judging on what they feel like whose season was better. So they pick 2 hunts. The challenger picks 2 hunts. The defender picks 2 hunts of their season. They could have killed 1 deer. They could have had 1 great encounter. They could have killed, a coyote and an elk or whatever. They picked the 2 hunts, and we edited this together ahead of time. And in March, we got together at this warehouse that we leased and we built the set on, and we got them together and showcased their hunts. We had an archery tag competition where all 12 of them went head to head, and they chose the order in which their episodes air. So if you drew the short straw and you got hit first on archery tag, kind of like dodgeball, your hunt was the first set of hunts we saw in episode 1. And then you became the defender in episode 2. And then whoever drew episode 2, they're now the challenger. And so you follow that format. And ultimately every episode, starting from episode 2, somebody, for lack of a better term, goes home. They go back into the jury box, and they're helping to judge with their peers whose season was better. And ultimately, who's going forward to try to reach critical mass. You're trying to make it through all 12 episodes to reach 13 and reach critical mass, where you have a chance to win a Can-Am Defender and a year's worth of gas. So for the Defender. So something cool, something fun. Every episode you see some archery tag in it. Like I said, we try to take the highs. We try not to get into the weeds, and there's no arguing. There's no mine's better than yours. It's they present their case in the form of that MASS acronym to the jury, and the jury decides, hey, who had a better season. So it's something different. It's something new. And hopefully the viewers at home, it resonates with them. We spent a lot of time, money, and effort and to try to make something new and entertaining.
So it's essentially paintball with archery, minus the paint and the paintball. And so I think I saw a little bit of it maybe on some of the advertisements prior to, and it looks pretty interesting. At first I thought, what's going on here?
Yeah, how can this be a hunting show?
Right, exactly. But it's a great idea, and it should be a ton of fun to watch. Now that airs tonight at 9 o'clock?
9:30. So Tuesday nights at 9:30 Central. 13 new season starts tonight at 9 o'clock Central. So there's a full hour there.
What kind of a season did you guys have overall, would you say?
As a team, we had a pretty solid year. When the all the kills get turned in from the team members, I proof all those kills when they come in, and we decide whether or not it makes the cut and whether it makes one of the shows and where it goes. And in general, I told Mark and Dad, this fall, I said, hey, this is going to be the best year we've had yet as far as good whitetail kills on video, good shots, good hits. The team really stepped up their game. So across the board, it was a good season. On 13, we had a really good season as well. We had some trials and tribulations. Dad had a pretty nasty fall there, right there in the middle of the whitetail season. So you kind of get a little bit of a look at him trying to make it back into the woods, and he kind of came back with a vengeance and with some fury, and he had one of his best years ever. So it was a good year. Overall, it was a great year.
Cool. Yeah, I saw, I guess, a little bit of what your dad went through there. That didn't look like that was a whole lot of fun, but he's doing well now.
I think
everything's healed.
Yeah, I think he's back to 100%. He's it's amazing, honestly, because he's not getting any younger. I think he's 61, going to be 62, and I dare you to try to say that he took as bad of a fall and broke as many bones as he did last year. He's doing pretty good.
Good. Well, that's good to hear. So you've got Critical Mass 13, and then the other shows that you've got. We talked before we started. There's one on the Pursuit channel, which is you teamed up with Winchester, right?
Yeah, Winchester and Drury's Natural Born, and it's just kind of I think we're in season 9, and it's just an overall fun hunting show. It's gonna be a kind of in your face, turkey hunting, whitetail, predator, big game. You'll see 3 kills every episode at least. I mean, it's a fun show. And then of course we got Bow Madness starting back up on Outdoor Channel on Thursday nights at 9 Central, and it's our all archery show, and the Bow Madness cast really lit it up this year. There's a lot of good kills, a lot of good kills on that show.
Neat. Well, that's always a fun one to watch. My favorites on that were always Dave and John. They always seem to pull off something incredible at the last minute. I think was it last year that they went to an outfitter in Iowa.
I think the year before, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It was nevertheless, it was fun to watch. So
yeah, they've been with us, I think, close to 25 years. I think this year will be their 25th year. So I mean, they've been with us a long time. They're our longest tenured team members, and you can't say enough about 2 guys that they don't live anywhere near each other anymore, and they consistently, the production level, they always can get on something, no matter if it's an outfitter or on their own ground, and they're just consistent. They're 2 of the best.
Right. You mentioned production value and things like that. I think a lot of people just don't understand what it takes sometimes to put this whole, what can be a nightmare at times, together. I mean, by the time you get everything, I did a lot of self-filming this year, and by the time you climb up the hill and get into your tree, you got to wonder at times what in the world you're thinking. But
for the return on investment, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's only for love of of what you're doing.
The love, absolutely, the love of the game. Well, when we started talking here before we went on live, you told me about an app that you guys have coming out. What's up with that? Yeah,
so we have a new app that we will be bringing to launch August 28th of 2018. We've been working on it for 2 years. Beta tested it last fall, and basically what it does. We sat down, and I get this question all the time, whether it's on social media or through our website. Hey, where would Mark and Terry, do they think the deer are going to move tonight? Do they going to, and Mark and Terry get text messages from all the guys on our team and friends, and hey, what are the deer doing? And it's amazing because Mark and Terry are very analytical about everything they do. And so over the last, between the 2 of them combined 70 years of whitetail hunting, they've sat out there so much and just kind of viewed what was going on in the whitetail woods day in and day out. I mean, they have that luxury for the last 20 years of it more or less being our day job. So they could sit out and observe, and they're not the kind of guys that'll sit out there and think, okay, that deer moved just by chance or by luck. Everything they do, it's like, all right, why did this deer move? They're looking at weather, they're looking at, conditions around them, whatever the case may be. And they kind of feel like they've more or less cracked the code, so to speak, the best you can, and figuring out what things make deer move. And even though they're in the Midwest, they're on their farms, and that's something we're going to hear. And I know this, like, hey, it's not pressured. They don't have to do what I do in PA or in Michigan or whatever. And there's some legitimacy to that too. But in general, deer move, we feel like, for certain reasons, and most of it weather related. So we took 11 conditions, and we are pulling from a weather app, the API from a weather app. And so anywhere you're at, you can set your area, your farm location, city, state, whatever, and it'll have the presets there, and it pulls the weather for that area up to the hour by hour weather data. And we've went and created an algorithm with an app developer that takes 11 weather conditions, and it factors, there's a weighted system that Mark and Terry put to each factor. So how they interact with each other. Well, we took it a step further and, kind of basically what all of our show 13 is about, is these 13 phases of the season, in our opinion, and how deer react differently during these 13 phases. Well, weather makes them react differently in those 13 different phases. So cloud cover has a different connotation to it in phase 1 than it does in phase 13. And so we weight it differently. We also try to go in and weight the states differently, that it's a little more pressured or a little more difficult. So a PA, a Michigan, so on and so forth, has a different scale to it, knowing that it's probably a little more difficult to get deer to move in those states than, say, Missouri, Iowa, Illinois. So this algorithm pumps out, with this forecast, it pumps out a deer cast, a prediction on whether or not we feel like the deer are going to move. And we try to keep it simple because, we understand that we can't factor in what neighbors are doing, what, dogs running through your property, what if you walk through the bedding area to get to you. We can't factor those things in. All we can do is predict based on weather if we feel like, the deer should move this evening. And so it pumps out a forecast, a great night, a great morning. It basically breaks it into AM and PM. And so is it going to be great? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be okay? Is it going to be poor? And then on top of that, we shot a different interview for every phase and for every condition. And so based on what we feel like's happening, the algorithm pumps out the video with Mark and Terry explaining, trying to help teach you a little bit more about why we feel like the deer are doing this or that, why it's poor, why it's great, and for this condition for every day, every forecast. So that's the probably the big selling point of the app is the deer cast side and helping predict movement for folks, people like me, where it's like, I work here at the office every day, 8 to 5, and I try to pinpoint. I got a young family at home. I don't live close to my farm. I try to pinpoint, based on weather, when I should go and hunt. And I think there's a lot of people like that. So this helps you, and it helps you understand and learn why we pick what we pick. So that's the deer cast portion, but the app's so much more than that as well. It's going to be a content hub for all Drury Outdoors content. So everything we put out on DoD TV, our podcasts, our entire old library, VHS and DVD library, will be available there. The entire library, which we're remastering all of it right now, which we've never done before. Mossy Oaks content, all of their old content's going to be up there as well. And then our journal experience, which has always been a highlight for our fan base, is our journal on our website. Well, now you're going to be able to get push notifications. We're going to be able to go live from the app, and we're going to show every kill as it happens this fall. So, not live in the field from the kill perspective, but hey, John Odell just killed a 160-inch buck down in Texas, and now we're going live and we're showing that kill footage right as it happened that day, and we've never done that before. So we're trying to give our fan base all access, more or less, to us, and to try to give them more tools, more information to try to become better hunters on their own properties.
Well, it sounds like that the app's going to be filled with tons of information. Just being able to get into either Terry or Mark's head is certainly a benefit, I think. Just listening to the podcast that you did on 100% Wild last year, it was, it's tough riding down the road, listening to everything that y'all are saying and then trying to write it down. And I imagine people go through the same thing with our podcast, but there's just a ton of information there, and there's so many things that go into, especially I think of Mark when I think of all the different things that have to go on in his head prior to making a decision. It's like hunting with Todd, my partner here at White Knuckle. I think they're both probably alike in that they're they're just very analytical, very anal about what it is that
Yeah.
they do and how it is that they do it. And quite frankly, Todd's a pain in the rear end most of the time to deal
Ditto.
with.
Ditto. But that's why they're so good, man. I mean, they take it to the next level. They think through every little thing. I got a new farm that Dad and I just purchased, and the access, it's on the Mississippi River, and there's kind of a slough there. And, Mark's like, well, I'd access it through this. I'd get a John boat and I'd access it down that river. And I'm thinking, there ain't no way I'd do that. Cause first of all, my butt would be in that water. I know it. Like he goes through the extra step every time. And the proof is in the pudding for him. I mean, he's one of the best big deer killers out there. And anybody could say whatever they want about the ground he hunts. I don't care where he goes. He can find big deer. If they exist in an area, he will find them and he'll kill them. He's analytical. He's the mad scientist is what we call him. And in our outfit and Drury Outdoors, he's the best in our group, hands down.
Well, and you've mentioned it a couple times, people, questioning the ground that you hunt. And I'm sure that you guys run into that a lot, but at the end of the day, I think there's merit and value to what they're saying regardless, because the deer are doing what they're doing for a reason. And I think that's the thing that a lot of us struggle with, especially I'm going to call myself inexperienced because I've only been doing it 25 years and haven't been that terrible successful. But they do what they do every time for a reason, and you can garner knowledge from their experiences. I hear some of the stuff that Todd does, like the day he shot the deer that he did this year, the buck named Barry Sanders, or excuse me, not Barry Sanders. The name's escaping me, and it shouldn't. But regardless, he called me, and I said, "You're going to do what?" And he said, "Oh yeah, it was just the most off the wall plan," and he went through great lengths to get into where he got into, and I'll be darned if he didn't call me 2 hours later and he shot the deer, and I'm like, I couldn't believe it. But I guess the lesson learned there is that the one thing that I've always told my son is that there's gold at the end of effort, and those guys put the extra effort in to learn how to do it. And
what people don't see is how many times they failed to get there. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of failures to get to the success too.
Right. And now the name just comes to me. The buck named Walter Payton. I've asked Todd several times to start naming his deer after Democrats, but but he's not having it. He's stuck on running back. So
that's a good one.
Yeah, exactly. One of the questions that I've been dying to ask you since I listened to the podcast last year is, what's it like to live in the shadows of those two guys?
I know that I'll never be as good as them. I don't have that. So like my background is production. That's why I went to school for. I bring something to the table in a very different way to Drury Outdoors. And I've been here 15 years now, and of course a part of it for all 30. And I just, back a long time ago, I was hunting with Dad for, I think it was 5 or 6 years as a kid before I killed my first whitetail. Wasn't for lack of effort, wasn't for lack of trying. We just, at the time, we didn't have very good ground to hunt. And I don't care who you are, if you don't have the right property and if deer aren't there, I mean, you can grow deer, but that takes, it takes time. And at the time, we just didn't have the deer. And back then, as a kid in high school, I couldn't quite come to grasp. I hated the camera. It's an awkward stage in your life, and it's in your face, and it cost us getting on deer all the time. So I had to struggle with it from an early age to figure out kind of my place with the company. And I killed a deer over Pike County, Illinois. I was 15 years old, and it's actually, you can't see it, but it's this deer behind me. It was like 125 inch buck, and I killed it with a bow. And I never hunted again for probably 10 years after that, 9-10 years. I proved to myself I could do it. If I had the opportunity, I could do it. And that's kind of where I ended it at that. And I went off, had a great time at school. I lived my life. I did what kids do. And then they offered me an editing position when I got out of when I got out of college, and I interned for him during college. And slowly but surely, once I started working here every day, I kind of got the feeling of I wanted to do it. So he didn't ever push me. He always gave me the opportunity. You want to come out to camp? You want to come over here? You want to, and I took him up on it when I was ready to take him up on it. And it kind of became on my terms. And since then, I've fallen back in love with it. And even though the camera's still in my face and still in tow everywhere we go, it's different. It is a job, but when I go to the woods, it helps me get away from sitting at this desk and the pressures of life. And as you get older in life, I'm 37 and I have 2 young kids and a family and bills and stresses, and going to the woods is that release, and the only release I have, frankly. So even though I'm still working out there, I'd rather be doing that than, going golfing or doing anything else. I enjoy it now. So going back to your original question, living in the shadows, I've never tried to compare myself to them because, I know I'm just not them. I don't have that same type of analytical mind for hunting. But in the same token, I know every day they can't do what I do here for the company. So everybody has their role. Taylor has her role and what they bring to the table out of the 4 of us. And from that, I feel like we have a pretty good synergy amongst the 4 of us. Everybody does what they're good at, and ultimately everybody brings something to the table. And because of that, I feel like, we're a successful company that's grown into a brand that people recognize, and it resonates with people, and we just try to be our true selves. And, hopefully one day I start getting a little better at hunting ultimately. Right now I'm still trying to figure it out. I got so much to learn. It's not even funny. I'm making mistakes every day, on my lease, and hopefully now on this new farm, going to put some plans into place, but I just got to figure it out, and you can't do that if somebody's holding your hand the entire way.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's, I can feel your pain to a certain extent. I somehow walked my way into about a 400-acre lease in Southwest Wisconsin this year.
Awesome.
And yeah, it is awesome. But on the other hand, I feel like I'm way in over my head. So it'll be a learning experience. Fortunately, it's a 5-year deal and can turn into 7 from there. So it should be a lot of fun. But I think the underlying message in all of what you said that I guess I want people to pick up on, and I think that you would agree, and you can say if you don't, is that, you gotta, one of the things that we've always said at White Knuckles, you gotta make it your own. And I'm not going to be Terry Drury. I'm not going to be Todd Pringnitz. I'm not going to be Mark Drury, and or any of fill in the blank.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you have to have realistic expectations, and you have to measure your success, maybe not in inches, but in the quality of the experience, I guess, is what I always said. And I think that's kind of in essence what you did and what allowed you to get back into it. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. I mean, if I've hunted this certain lease, this will be my 4th year, and I still haven't killed a single buck off of it. Had close encounters. I've had misses. I've had everything you could think of. But I told you this off air, I've learned more in 4 years there than I did in a decade hunting a dad's killing deer very easily, because it's a different, he's done all the work there. He's there every day. He does all the work. Whereas, it's just not the same. It's not the same feeling. It'd be like going to an outfitter, and I'm not learning anything that way. And so, I get a lot of crap for not killing anything on this lease, but I'm telling you, I've learned so much more, and this be my 4th year, than I have in a decade at dad's, and that's invaluable. And if I ever do want to get to the level they're at, I gotta walk on my own at some point. So right now I'm crawling and trying to figure it out and putting plans into place. And for me, success on this piece would probably be, a 140, a 4-year-old 140 class. I mean, that's success, so is that success at Terry Drury's farm by Terry Drury standards? Not at this point in his career, but he's 61, and he's killed those deer. It's that whole gamekeeper's philosophy, and they're at the stages where they enjoy seeing other people have success, and they're after, a different caliber of whitetail. I'm not there yet, man. I'm still learning, trying to figure out how to get to the first stage.
Yeah, and the learning is certainly endless. It never ceases to amaze me how you think you have something nailed down and it's not nailed down at all.
Yeah, yeah.
So you get to hunt a little bit at your dad's and a little bit at your lease, it sounds like, but the majority of the time you get stuck in the office, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, almost every day I'm just here, and that's fine. I mean, that's kind of that's my role, So Mark and Terry get to go do what they're best at, which is being in the field and putting their plans into place. And Mark's in here during the summer months a decent amount because that's when we're proofing all of our shows, and of course he's got a lot of input still on that side of things. We don't see Terry too much anymore, but he's just kind of at that point in his life where he just wants to go hunting and enjoy that side of it. And, when it comes to big decisions and big company moves, of course, all three of us are very much involved and we formulate an opinion based on all three of our thoughts, and we go from there. And ultimately what Mark and Terry say is what we do. And so far their gut instincts have done them pretty well in life.
Yeah, I'd say. Do you find yourself doing the same thing with respect to hunting, trying to, in some way, shape, or form, take what they've shown you and make it somehow your own?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and still I'm I had the luxury of texting those guys all the time and through the season that, hey, I got a picture here and, this is where I think he's better. What do you think? And the information that they give is invaluable. And it's just a matter of listening, and figuring out what they're telling you and trying to put, plan in place for yourself and make it your own and make those mistakes. And I've made a lot, hearing them talk about not pressuring property and staying out as much as you can, and made those mistakes of being in there too much and seeing what it does to the herd and what, they disappear and the bucks disappear. And so it's, you just, I can't state it enough. I just try to take what they tell me and put that plan in place. But it's harder to do it sometimes when you're like, oh, this deer, I'm getting pictures of him, I got to go in there. Well, they learned those mistakes the hard way, right? They've already made the mistake in their 20s and 30s, and they know a lot of times it's best just to sit and wait it out. And I'm still stupid and going in after them too hard and messing up. So slowly but surely I'll get smart one of these days.
Don't you think to a certain extent that until, it's like our kids, until they experience it for themselves, and feel the pain, you're not going to probably adapt some of the methods that they have or the patience that they have. And it's just you have to experience it on your own. One question that I asked all of the guys that were on our recent, I told you before we went on air here about our public land series. Certainly that's a different ball game than maybe what the rest of us are doing. And I did it last year and thoroughly enjoyed it. But one of the questions that I asked them, and I'll ask you the same thing just for fun, is with respect to the hunting side of things, in order to be successful, very successful, do you think you have to love the failure?
I think you can't. I think it makes a success that much sweeter. And I've dreamt about the day on this property that I lease, about the big one coming by and about making a good shot and about the reaction I'm going to have or feel, what's it going to feel like? Well, it's only building and building and building every year, more and more and more. So you can't do that if you're just having success all the time. You sometimes you just got to fall to get back up and make it past the finish line. So I think the failure makes the success that much sweeter. So by gosh, I can't wait to have some success. I tell you that.
Yeah. I like I said, I've got this lease, and it's like starting from scratch. This year's going to be a little bit odd, and I'm not going to be able to put the time in that I need to because I drew an Iowa tag, so I'll be down at Todd's, and we've got a lease down there, and I've asked him to just kind of let me do my own thing, but as anal as Todd is, and as much as he's told me that he will let me do my own thing, I am not kidding myself. I'm not doing my own thing.
That'd be like me asking to go to Mark's and being like, hey, just stay back. I'll hit the spot.
Yeah,
that ain't happening, man.
Not happening at all. Right. Exactly. Well, it sounds like you guys are really evolving in terms of a business, and I think that that's one of the things that the hunting industry is definitely done, and it's evolving so quick. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, even, so I've been here 15 years. In the last 5 years, we've seen, they're just the information, technology is just amazing. We put a couple posts out there asking our viewer base or fan base what they thought about the app and whether it should be free or something they would pay for, or, just trying to get some information. And the feedback in the comments was really interesting, good and bad. And to some people, they feel like, hey, one more thing that the Druries are trying to sell, which obviously we would disagree with. I mean, we don't have any products that we sell that are our own, I feel like if someone's watching our titles, DVDs, VHS, and, the TV shows like 13, the reason why we've had any success is because we've shown the failures. We've helped to try to teach what we've learned from our failures, and we try to make people a better hunter. And that's what this app does. It's just an extension of that. So technology can be a good thing. I mean, think about the technology and the archery equipment we use, and the scopes we use, and the guns we use. I mean, you can't, if you're, there's traditional guys out there. There always will be. I understand it. But you can't fault the guys that use technology to their advantage to try to succeed. I read quite a few comments that said, "Oh, lazy hunters," and this and that. They'll never learn. And I don't know. I disagree. I think the younger generation that probably listens to podcasts like these, and they're getting their information from their smartphone, and they're researching, and they're probably doing more homework before they hit the woods than your guy back in the 70s was, or the 80s, and good for them. I mean, they can skip so many mistakes by finding out what other people do to succeed. It does nothing but help people. At the end of the day, you got to get out there, get your boots dirty, and figure it out. But why not be educated going into it and have a good game plan? So right. That's the way I look at it. I think it's a great thing, and it's only going to keep getting better. There's some downfalls in our industry. Yes, there's over commercialization. Yes, privatization of land. There's so many downfalls. The tag sales going, kind of tanking. CWD, EHD. There's a thousand things that you could point to say, man, we're having a tough roll here. But at the end of the day, when you sit behind an animal that you've been after, doe, buck, turkey, whatever, that feeling, that's what drives people to keep coming back.
Right. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I do have to ask one question that inevitably is probably been asked. So if it's redundant, I apologize up front. But do you think that some of technology, and even with respect to this app, do you think some of it people try to use to replace good woodsmanship?
Yes, probably so. And I've mentioned it on our podcast before. I think even trail cameras, to that extent, you rely so much on what your camera inventory gives you these days. And, back in the day, that might have been you out scouting, you sitting in the woods through the slow period to find out what bucks are doing or what the herd's doing, where they're moving. So yeah, I do think that there is a real element to that. And one that I find myself trying to get past. Like, I don't know the names of every tree, and I don't know what every little detail about this or that. I try to learn it from guys like Dad and Mark, or even guys like Aaron Bennett or Trevor Walker, guys that I hunt with and that are camera guys with me that know more than I know. I try to ask them questions and figure it out, because there's no doubt like we're losing a little bit of that with the next generation. And I feel like I'm in that same situation. And the only way you're going to figure it out is by trying to ask questions and learn from those that know. And hopefully people have a thirst for that knowledge.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would turn down the opportunity to have a Q&A session with you guys. And essentially, that's, I guess, not what the app is, but in many ways, it kind of is.
It kind of is. And the plan, I mean, our plan is we used to do this thing on our website probably 10 years ago called the Inner Circle. And it was a subscription-based deal. And and we had videos from Mark and Terry kind of talking about the phases before we ever identified phases, just kind of talking about what the deer are doing and why. And this will be a lot like that. And we have some of that information out there on Facebook and, of course, in the shows. But it's just different. Getting real-time info like that from the kind of just straight from the horse's mouth, it just – I don't know. It's something that I look forward to tuning into this fall just to kind of see what they're doing. Because I know personally, when I see them switch their tactics, that's when I switch. I don't make you know what I mean? It's like, oh, sure. Shit, they're doing something I need to do. So right. I better start trying it out because they're doing it for a reason. So I think it's going to help people. And it can only make you get better. We're just trying to help make people get better. And we're not saying we're the best out there. We're just saying, hey, we've failed a lot. And here's some of the ways that you can go about it and hopefully not make the same mistakes.
Right. You mentioned a couple of things that are definitely hot topics, and we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on it. But I'm curious to hear what you guys and you don't have to make a statement collectively for Drury Outdoors, but how do you see CWD impacting our sport? I mean, there's one thing that we know for sure, it's fatal.
Yes.
And I'm hunting at ground zero essentially. I mean, it's exploding where I'm it's a little bit north of where I am, but not too far, miles. And there's so many sides to the debate, and it's hard. It's so hard to shuffle through what's real. And we have a guy on our team, Clint McCoy, who's a veterinarian down in Illinois, and he said, question the science, question everything, and then when you feel like you have an answer, question that. How do you feel about all that?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, for a company to come out and talk about it, it's almost a no-win scenario because there's certain people, especially in this day and age, and it goes back to our politics and everything else, where there's always conspiracy theorists, and that there's a little dark spot on the internet that allows anybody to have a voice and kind of spread any conspiracies. So that's where I want to start by saying, like, I think you're in a no-win scenario, whether you're the MDC in our case, Missouri, Department of Conservation, or any of the departments of conservation, because ultimately there's going to be a group of people, and I don't blame them, but there's just misinformation out there that becomes fact. And I think we at Drury Outdoors, Mark and Terry, I talked about them being very analytical. I think we would agree with your veterinarian. We look at science, we look at facts, we look at people. Like, we are not the smartest guy in the room and never will be. And this is not we don't know the science, the facts behind the CWD and the disease. We try to learn about it. But ultimately, like, we aren't educated enough to give an opinion. That's as somebody that's more or less in the public eye, and a company that's in the public eye, I feel like it's our duty to help spread what I feel like is factual, science-based information, and let the person at home make a decision for themselves, right or wrong, whichever side of the fence they're on. We're from our hometown is called Bloomsdale, Missouri. Mm-hmm. And that's in St. Genevieve County in Missouri. And there were, I think, a positive or two positive tests for CWD this last year. So St. Genevieve County is now in a CWD zone. There's no baiting. The counties around it, there's no baiting, no minerals, none of that stuff. In northern Missouri, Mercer County, I think, is a county that's on the edge of another county that had a CWD test, or it might have been Iowa that had the CWD test. So that was positive. So Mercer County is now in that zone. Well, that's Mark's Missouri property. So we're going in and getting rid of all the mineral sites, turning over the dirt, and making sure we comply with all the laws. And we've had meetings with the MDC. And when you sit down, if you have an open mind about it and you sit down and listen to the facts, what I call facts, I guess somebody could question these facts just like I question someone else's. But to me, if it's peer reviewed, if it's science based, if it's coming out of a university, something like that, like to me, maybe call me a sheep. I don't know, but I feel like that's pretty factual, and sitting eye to eye and looking at these guys from the MDC, guys and girls, and hearing the feedback and the science and the facts behind it. Like, my opinion is it's real. It's here. It's something that they're trying to do their best to try to manage a herd and not have this be a total freaking outbreak in Missouri.
Right.
And they're following what Illinois Department of Conservation did, and which by and large seems like they've had some success. Now, the question always comes back to, all right, if there was a positive on your property and they came in and eradicated your herd, how would you feel about it? Well, hey, it would suck. It would be devastating. This is what we do for a living. It would be totally devastating. But if it's for the betterment of our sport in the long term, I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent, you kind of got to go along with it. That's how I feel. I think that's how Mark and Terry feel. And so what we're going to do, I think the date, we have it on the calendar. I think it's going to be July 24th. We're having more or less a Facebook Live roundtable with some folks at the MDC, with Dr. Grant Woods, which we're working on the details right now. Potentially somebody from QDMA, and I'd like to have some other people's opinions as well. I know obviously everybody by now probably has seen the Jay Gregory live and some of the fallout from that, or some people that I really respect. And Jay's a friend of a long time and a big buck killer, and I saw Chris Parrish comment on and David Westmoreland, and these are people that we really respect, and they kind of had, for lack of a better term, a similar notion as to Jay. So I'd love to get some of their feedback and their commentary or questions, and be able to present that to the guys in the MDC and say, hey, what do you think about this? Because ultimately, I feel like their biggest hurdle is that they aren't getting a face and a name out there. It comes from a press release. It comes from the website, and it's not as humanized, right? The information.
Right.
And if people at home have the ability to ask them some of these questions, the one I feel like is the most ridiculous, but I know a lot of people think has merit, is that the insurance companies have something to do with it. I know a lot of people in the MDC, and it doesn't seem like any of them has ever had a conversation with someone from a lobbyist or the insurance agency, or someone further up in the Missouri government that told them they had to do this. That's just not how they're managing our wildlife population. That's not the decision makers. So, it would be great if someone at home had an opportunity to point blank ask them that question and see how they respond. So it's just stuff like that. I feel like it's a very heated topic. It should be. It's very complicated. People that I trust, even like the folks at Analogics, who are veterinarian based, science based. I mean, who I really trust. I mean, even they have questions. That it's the science is still out, the verdict is still out. So I just look to people like them, like Grant. People that I feel like are intelligent, way smarter than we'll ever be. And it helps me and Mark and Terry to form our opinion based on gaining as much knowledge as we possibly can.
Right. You have to educate yourself. The thing that I struggle with, and probably will continue to struggle with for some time, is whether the sky is falling or is it not. And, I was recently at an event. I won't name what it was, but there was several speakers there, and the sky was falling, and I walked out of there going, "Oh my gosh, we have a responsibility." Because we're in this business to do something, and then you start to get into it, and well, now I'm like, maybe the sky isn't falling. So
Yeah.
I was just, there's a ton of information. You have to get yourself informed. At the end of the day, it's, to an extent, it's who are you going to trust? And, you know, you and I are fortunate to have people like Dr. Grant Woods and the guys from Mississippi State Deer Lab and things like that. And Clint, you know, a veterinarian that knows about, you know, stuff like that, to give you a layman's description of really what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, I just don't think we know. But I appreciate you even wading into that pond, because I know it's a hot topic.
It is. It's like I said, it's really a no-win scenario. Because if we went out there and made a statement, you know, CWD is real, CWD is here to stay, we need to, you know, do this and that and other, we would get hammered over it. We would just get absolutely hammered over it for no reason. So the only thing I feel like we can do is present the best we can what we feel like are factual things about the topic, and let people form their own opinions, let people ask their own questions. And you know, that's the best we can do. And I think we owe it to, you know, the hunting community to try to get that information out there and let them make their own choices. We've been very lucky over 30 years to make a living off of people paying for a product, spending their hard-earned money, you know, all surrounding the whitetail, you know, and the turkey. And so I feel like we do have a duty to try to help educate in some sense, not saying that we're the ones educating, just giving a forum for others that are in the know to be able to get their voices out there.
Sure. Well, I've taken quite a bit of your time, and I definitely appreciate it. I know you're a busy guy. Just haven't had a couple chats with you. It seems like you've got a lot going on, so I don't want to take your whole day, although I'd love to. What's your favorite hunt overall?
Species or just moment, like favorite moment that's happened?
Yep, favorite moment. It doesn't even have to be success.
Yeah, you know, there's been a few. I'd say one of the most recent would be last year in Illinois during the second firearm season. Dad he was starting to make his way back from his fall, from his injuries. And at the time when he had his accident, you know, we didn't know if he'd be out. Yeah, we didn't know what the effects would be. And, you know, he had several broken bones and fractured ribs and ankles and punctured lung and, you know, you name it. And we got very fortunate, and he slowly and surely kind of made his way back. I was there for his first hunt back, which would have been, he fell the day before Missouri's opening gun season, and he came back for the last 2 days of that season. That was his first day back in the field. And so I went up for that, and just, that was special to, you know, because you take for granted, man. You take for granted the fact that he's always been there for me. He's the guy that I go to, you know, it's camp, it's us, it's family. So you kind of take that for granted until something scary happens like this. So I tried to make sure I was around, right? And so he hunted then. We didn't have any luck. Then I actually had some luck the day after the Missouri gun season, and he was able to track the deer with us with his walker, and, you know, kind of looking like he was 10 years older than what he was. But, you know, that was a special moment to kind of be there together. And then in Illinois, in that second gun season, I had harvested a deer, and I was kind of getting pressure to go back home from the family, and I'd been gone a while, and I decided to stick it out one more day, one more evening, to see if he was going to have any luck, just so I could help, you know, be there to help, whatever.
Sure.
And it was hot. I'm talking hot. And he didn't even want to go out, and he thought they're not going to move. But it was that super moon. I think it was like November or December 4th, 5th, somewhere in there, 6th, somewhere in there. And that super moon was high, rising in the evenings, and he killed an absolute giant, 167 or 68 inch buck. I forget what it was. And to be able to come up on the deer, and he was kind of downplaying it when he called me to come over there to help him. I mean, the elation and the feeling of, wow, we did this, we did it. You're back, you came back, you're coming back, and you had some success with what was his biggest deer in a long time. I don't know. It was a very cool moment, and to be there together after everything he had gone through, that was probably my favorite, most recent memory. And I'd say probably most of my memories are with him, and we haven't even really hunted much together in the last 5-6 years. Cause usually if I'm at his farm, I'm hunting with a camera guy, he's hunting with a camera guy. But, my best memories are always with him. So I don't think that's by mistake either.
Well, that's great. Those are definitely fun memories. I can definitely say that probably my most memorable experiences to date, at least, is with my son when he was 12 and shot his first deer. And but yeah, definitely spending time with loved ones in the outdoors is priceless in my opinion. So, well, thanks for taking the time. Why don't you go ahead one more time and let us know what all the stuff is that you guys have got going on, because there's a lot.
Sure. There is. You got time?
I do.
All right. So first of all, we got, our show over on Pursuit Channel. It airs 4 days a week, 52 weeks of the year. Its prime time is Sunday night at 8:30 Central. It's called Drury's and Winchester's Natural Born. Mm-hmm. On top of that, we have 3 shows on Outdoor Channel. They're just starting to air this week, the first week of July. 13 Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Central. Bow Madness Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Central. And then, of course, the new show, Critical Mass, brand new, totally different, Tuesday nights, 9:30 p.m. Central. So Tuesday nights, you can get a full hour. You're going to get a gut full of Drury Outdoors on Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock. So that's the plug there. And then, of course, you can follow along with us over on any of the social platforms at Drury Outdoors, and then YouTube. We have a ton of great free content over on YouTube. We call DoD TV. It's kind of the replacement for the DVD, so to speak. We have a cutting room floor edition of 13 for those of you that don't have the network. And it's got more hunting footage in it than the show does, because we just don't have enough time to show it all in a 30-minute episode. And then we're also doing a cutting room floor that we're calling Critical Mass Extreme, for the new show, Critical Mass. There were so many hunts that didn't actually make the cut based on the format that we have one for all 13 weeks. So a lot of cool stuff going on. And of course, the app will launch DeerCast in the Android and Apple Store August 28th. And there's definitely going to be a free version of that. And we're just trying to figure out if there's any app purchases yet or not. Still haven't nailed that down. So I appreciate you guys, watching and helping us through the years. And we love getting the feedback from you. So feel free to reach out to us and let us know what you think.
Will do. Absolutely. What's going on with your 100% Wild podcast? You're still doing that?
Yeah, we are. So Mark Kenyon, who is obviously who we started the podcast with probably 2 years ago now,
right.
He had a really cool opportunity to form a new partnership with Steve Ranella. And of course, everybody knows in the podcast world, in the hunting podcast world. And so we were thrilled for him. It's a huge opportunity. And he's going on he still has Wired to Hunt, but I think him and Steve have some sort of podcast together that they'll be doing. And then Drury Outdoors, we will still have the 100% Wild podcast, but in order to get it, you have to log on to wherever you get your podcast, Stitcher, Google Play, iTunes, whatever, and subscribe to Drury Outdoors 100% Wild podcast. So there's a little bit of a name change at the front end of it to transfer everything over to us. So I got a new host, Tim Chelsvik here. He's a new guy that works for us. That he's a lot like Mark Kenyon in a lot of ways. Very analytical, informative, hunts a lot of public ground. So I feel like he brings a similar perspective that Kenyon did. And we're going to start ramping up here and pumping one a week out. So like that QDMA, MDC, CWD kind of roundtable, that will be a podcast and a Facebook Live. And we got some cool guests lined up and cool things coming. So stay tuned, man.